Shalom, Chanuka Sameach, a happy Chanuka to everyone. Did Yosef HaTzadik keep Chanuka in Egypt? We'll find out very soon. Meanwhile, let's look in our Parashat Miketz. Over there it says, U'tvoach tevach vehachen, that when the brothers of Yosef descended in Egypt, he decided to make a feast, and therefore he slaughtered some animals and he prepared. What did he prepare for? The Talmud of Chulin in page 91 says, Vehachen, from here I learn that Yosef HaTzadik kept Shabbat. And in order to prepare for Shabbat, he decided to slaughter a few animals so they would have what to eat. The question is, what do you mean he kept Shabbat? And why did Yosef keep Shabbat? Didn't they keep all the mitzvot? It's a known fact that Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov kept the mitzvot. And as Rashi explains, not only did they keep the mitzvot, but they gave these mitzvot over to their children. But what do you mean? What do you mean that you kept mitzvot before Shabbat was even given, or before any mitzvah was given? To this, the Midrash says, on the pasuk, on the verse of Shir HaShirim, the Song of Songs of Shlomo HaMelech, King Solomon, Lereach shemanecha tovim. Your oils, they have a good odor. Rechot hayu. Every one of the mitzvah that our forefathers did were like good odors. They had no substance because the mitzvah didn't exist. And man was not commanded to perform the mitzvah. So it's like doing something before you're commanded and just practicing something. It didn't have any value yet. It was a nice gesture. It was a nice feeling, but that's all it was. On the other hand, when it comes to Shabbat, there's something a little different. The Talmud in Shabbat, page 10 says, Amar le'akadosh baruch hu leMoshe. God said to Moses, Matana tova yeshli bebet gnazai. I have in my treasury a beautiful present, a very, very special, good present, a shining present. The Shabbat Shema, and it's called Shabbat. And I want to give it to the Jewish people. What does that mean? It means that Shabbat existed before. It's true that all the commandments did not yet exist, but Shabbat did exist. How did Shabbat exist? Well, we read it every Friday night in the beginning of creation. God created the world in 6 days. Kivo Shabbat mikol me'achtu asher asa. And on Shabbat, he rested from all the work that he did. What that means exactly is not the time. But Shabbat already existed. It existed as a godly experience, the experience of God working for 6 days and resting on the seventh, but not yet as a human existence. Not yet as a human experience. And therefore Shabbat existed and it was already in the world. It wasn't yet commanded to the Jewish people or to anyone. But Yosef kept Shabbat. Actually, not only did Yosef keep Shabbat, the Shvatim, the tribes, his brothers, kept Shabbat as well. But each one kept Shabbat his own way. Let's explain. What is the difference between Yosef and his brothers? The way the brothers experienced their godliness was in a godly way, in a spiritual way, in a way that's disconnected from physicality. Yosef, on the other hand, went down to Egypt. Egypt is a coarse land. Egypt is a physical land. Egypt is a perverted land. As we see that when Avraham Avinu came down to Egypt with his wife Sarah, he says, Ata yadati, now I'm able to recognize your beauty, your physical beauty. Till now, I was more spiritual. Now that I came down to Egypt, to such a coarse land, I feel my physicality, and therefore I'm able to appreciate yours. Yosef HaTzadik had to fight. He had to fight with his body to stay alive, to stay Jewish in the land of Egypt. And therefore, his whole experience, in general, was an experience which was a physical experience. Just like someone which is fighting with himself. Your body is pushing you in a direction. It's pushing you with desires and a bunch of different thoughts. And at this moment, you have to fight with your body. So when you actually do something and you overcome your evil inclination, You feel it in your flesh. Since Yosef felt everything in his flesh and was able to fight with his body, therefore, when it came to keeping Shabbat, he did not keep Shabbat in a way that was only spiritual. He needed to translate it in his reality. And therefore it says, V'Hashem et Yosef. And therefore God came down to Yosef in his reality, as if he gave him that mitzvah. And what was the reality of Yosef when it came to Shabbat? If we are doing things in a physical way on Shabbat, we need to honor it in a physical way. We need to eat meat. We need to eat something in order to honor the Shabbat. And that's why our sages specifically point out that Yosef kept the Shabbat, because he kept it the way we're keeping it today, because he already experienced the Shabbat in a physical way. Which brings us to another midrash. The midrash in Parashat Naso says that during Chanukat HaMizbeach, we know that when they inaugurated the sanctuary, the tabernacle in the desert, they started in Rosh Chodesh Nisan. And every one of the tribes of Israel which did not participate in the building of the tabernacle, they were able to offer an offering for the next 12 days. Each one on his given day gave the exact same offering and sacrifice. And it's mentioned in the Torah, even though we don't repeat things in the Torah, but to show how cherished it was by God. We repeat each one of these offerings. Who offered on the seventh day? Who offered his sacrifice on Shabbat? It was the great grandson of Yosef HaTzadik. Because he kept Shabbat, he merited that his great grandson, Elishama ben Amihud Livnei Ephraim, should offer the offering on Shabbat. And when do we read these offerings? During the holiday of Chanuka. Things during Chanuka is the moment of Chanukat HaMizbeach. It's the moment we celebrate Chanuka. We celebrate the inauguration. We celebrate the lighting of the menorah. Therefore, we light the candles during Chanuka, and every day of the 8 days of Chanuka, we read about the offerings of the inauguration of the tabernacle. Now, we understand a little the connection, but not yet. What happened exactly there? Aaron, the brother of Moshe, lit the menorah. God commanded, you know what? You weren't able to offer offerings. I'm going to give you something great. The greatest mitzvah of all, light the menorah. The Torah teaches us that Vayasken Aaron, and so did Aaron. He'ela nerotea, he lit the menorah. Rashi says, what do you mean? And so did Aaron. Melamed להגיד שפחו של Aaron שלא שינה. To teach us, to praise Aaron that did not change. Did not change what? Did not change from the commandment that God gave him to light the menorah. Well, isn't that obvious? Would we expect anything less from Aaron than to light the menorah the way God said? To understand this, we have to go in a little in Kabbalah. In the Kabbalah, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria the Arizal explains that at the beginning of creation, every time God creates something, it says, Vayichen, and so it was. But when it comes to light, it does not say, and so it was. It says, Yehi or, may there be light, and there was light. What does it mean, there was light? There was light, meaning that this was not exactly the light that God said. The light that God wanted to put in the world was too powerful for this world. The wicked people would use it for a negative force, to their negative deeds. Therefore, God did not want to put this light. And that's why it says, may there be light. And it doesn't say, and so it was. It says, and there was light. Aaron HaKohen was very special. Aaron HaKohen was so close to God that he was able to take that original light and not change it from what it was and bring it down in the menorah. And that's why it says, Vayasken Aaron. And so he did, Aaron. To teach us that he did not change. What did he not change? He didn't change the original light. He brought it down in the menorah. And that's what happens to us. during these days of Chanuka. During these days of Chanuka, we bring the original light that God wanted, intended for the world. We bring it down in our homes. But when do we do it? Where do we place the menorah? On the left side of the door. When you come into the door, on the right you have the mezuzah, on the left side you have the menorah. How do we light the menorah? We start with the candle which is on the right. And every day we add a candle. And we go from right to left. We make the left filled with light. When do we light the menorah? When night falls. Where do we place the menorah? Our sages teach us it has to be able to shine outside. Where? It has to shine outside at the moment that the people which are coming back from the marketplace are walking, till the feet of those walking back from the marketplace is no longer in the street. What does that mean? Here we see that everything that has to do with the menorah is on the left side. What is the right? What is the left? The right in Kabbalah and Chassidut represents the illumination, represents the revelation, represents light, represents goodness. The left represents concealment, represents darkness, represents infinity, so to say. Because what happens is that the left, which represents darkness, is actually a higher level of light that cannot be perceived. You see, when I tell you to do a mitzvah, right, do this or do that, and you actually are going to do this mitzvah, and you're going to follow God's commandment to do it, it's going to be very specific and very limited. God reveals His will to you. But when God tells you, do not do this, the do not is something which is infinite. When you have, for example, a feeling in your heart, a thought in your mind, and before you express it, the thought is infinite and the feeling is infinite as well. It's very potent and very powerful. What happens? When you reveal that thought or you reveal that feeling, it's already limited. And that's why we say in our prayers, Yotzer or uvore choshech. You form light, but you create darkness, because creation is higher than formation. And therefore darkness is higher than light. It's the potential of light before it's already revealed. What do we do during Chanuka? We light up the left side. We reveal that level of light which is hidden. We take the darkness of the street and even the foot of the person coming back from the marketplace. We want to make him feel that he should be connected to God. Just like Admur HaZaken, the Alter Rebbe explains that there are two ways to protect your home. To protect your home from a thief. One way to protect your home is to put a barrier so he can't come in. Another way is to open the door and to have such a powerful light inside the house, a powerful spiritual light, that when the thief will come in, he'll want to change and transform himself. That is the light of Chanuka, a special protection. Imagine, just a few days ago, in New Zealand, in Tasmania, it's the first place on planet Earth where night falls. In Tasmania, a young boy with his father lit their menorah. And they lit the first candle. And like this, they started a human cycle of 24 hours where the first candle of Chanuka was lit. We didn't finish that first day, then already we got into the human cycle of the second light, surrounding the whole planet Earth, the third, the fourth, the fifth, the sixth, the seventh, till you come to the eighth light. At this present moment, we are bathing in light, and the light is growing. That's why we have all these lightings of the menorah in such a public way everywhere, whether it's in Berlin, whether it's in Miami, whether it's in Australia, or even in Alaska or Tasmania. Everywhere in the world is bathing in light at this moment. So what is the lesson? The lesson is to be just like Yosef. Yosef was called Yosef because his mother said, I want a child. I'm going to call him Yosef. Yosef li ben acher. Yosef means to add. Add me another child. Meaning, add me a child that's going to have the power to take the other, the left side, the dark side, and make him a child for me. That's the power. One day, a group of young leadership of the UGA came to see the Lubavitcher Rebbe. And one of them said to the Rebbe, I heard you can perform a miracle. Is that true? And the Rebbe said, every Jew can perform a miracle. You have a soul, a godly soul. So he said to the Rebbe, can you perform a miracle for us right now? And the Rebbe said, absolutely. I'm going to ask you every night before you go to sleep to ask yourself, how can tomorrow be better than today? How can you be better tomorrow than you were today? And that is the absolute greatest miracle that can happen. And this is the miracle of Chanuka, the miracle of Yosef, even being in darkness, and instead of fighting with darkness, being there to add every day a little light till you touch the essence of your light, the light of Mashiach, which is inside of us, which should be revealed right away. Amen.